I'm Deepak Chopra, and we're continuing our conversations with luminaries, thought leaders, people who are making a difference in the world. And it's my great pleasure today to speak to Julianne Hough. Is that how your name is pronounced?
It is pronounced that way, yes.
And I'm reading a book right now called Everything We Never Knew. It's a novel, actually. And I've only read 25 pages, and I have to say I can't put it down. Thank you for writing this. Looking forward. I'll ask you some questions about it in a moment, but let's talk about some of the other amazing stuff that you're doing. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, thanks for being here. And
Thank you for having me.
tell me about this amazing platform you've created, Kinrgy.
Yes, Kenergy. So it's
Kinrgy.
Kenergy, yes. So it is a movement platform, 360 platform, really. But it was a modality that while I was going through massive transformation in my life, I felt guided to create something that was through my own self-expression, which is dance, but have it be a universal language for anybody to connect to find more of their inner wisdom and trust within themselves. And so it is a movement, breath work, and visualization modality that allows you to tap into, I believe, your most authentic version of yourself, the wisdom, the truth, and feeling as grounded and as expanded as possible. And it's something that I started back in 2018, and it was really the impetus of where this book and the experiences of my transformation came from, and I just actualized it into a physical modality for people to experience.
So just reminding our audience that I'm speaking to Julianne Hough, and she's the author of this book, which has captivated my imagination, although I haven't finished it. Everything I ever knew. But I'm sure you all know that she's the brand for what we call Dancing with the Stars. She's a dancer, and she has taken that passion to actually help people with mind-body practices, breath work, and healing. How long has Kinrgy been around?
I started it and developing the modality back in 2018, but I didn't launch it until 2020 when we were actually on tour with Oprah for her Oprah 2020 Your Life and Vision tour back right before the pandemic started. And it was really incredible because we just had this amazing experience going around the country. Every arena was filled with, between 10 and 20,000 people. And we were watching, people have these incredible transformations in front of our eyes. And then we were expecting to open up, studios and have it be an experiential in-person modality. And then of course the pandemic happened. So we went virtual, and it ended up being such a blessing because we were able to reach so many more people globally. And it became this community where it was a community where it wasn't just about moving forward. It was about being able to be in the place that you were at and actually be still enough where we could bring up some of the things that maybe we've suppressed for many, many years, and actually have a space that felt really contained and safe and with like-minded people going through the same journey. And it ended up helping us reach more people. So, blessings in the discomfort for sure of what was happening. And the plan was supposed to be one thing and it turned into something else. But it really, truly has been such a gift. And it's a gift that keeps giving, and people keep finding it whenever they're ready.
So Kenergy is shifting the way people approach fitness and wellness, where it's not just about what you look like on the outside, but how you feel on the inside. These practices encompass everything from strengthening our body, fostering mental, emotional, and energetic health, and the diverse offerings of Kinrgy provide you with self-care modalities, dance, cardio, fitness, mindful movement, meditations, sound healing, and more. The mission of Kinrgy is to create and support a judgment-free world that empowers each person to connect to their true nature and uniquely express their authentic self. So, how can people? Will show people how they can
Yes.
find energy, right? Uh,
Yes, so it's an online platform at Kinrgy.com as well as on social media. And then we also have a studio here in Los Angeles that's in person, and we are opening up more studios around the country later this year in Nashville, in Seattle, in New York, and getting back into that in real life personal experience, because we're meant to be doing these things together. You know, it's one thing to be able to do it on your own, and I think that is so beautiful, but to be able to do it in community and create and co-create the experience together, I think is just a whole other level, and really how this modality was designed to be experienced.
and if we can reach a critical mass of people practicing these modalities, maybe we can reach a more peaceful, just, sustainable,
Yes.
healthier, and joyful world, right?
Exactly. That was the whole mission, is self, others, world. If you can connect to yourself and truly dive in and be able to be your most free, authentic version of yourself, you will then be able to see the people around you without the lens of judgment, and be able to feel and connect, and hopefully relate and connect to the people around you, and then you can experience the world and in a new way, and it can be a ripple effect of change. You know, it starts with self, and your field is so powerful and it touches so many people. So as you do the work, it will be a ripple effect.
And we desperately need that right now in times of social conflict and national conflict and international conflict.
Oh, yes. I
Oh,
remember I actually went to the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2020, and right before the pandemic happened, and it was right when we were on tour, and you know, serving these, people on tour with this modality. And I was thinking, wow, everybody's trying to change the world, but they're doing it from the outside in versus from the inside out, and it won't be sustainable because it's lacking that integrity and connection of of where it stems from. And so I was like, man, if there's anything that I can do, I'm still on my journey, I'm going to go like this, but if there's anything that I can do to allow my platform or my opportunity of what I've learned to be able to share it in a way that touches people, I mean, that's what I feel like my mission and purpose is through art. And whether that's through Kinergy or through writing this book or dancing, whatever it might be, that's my energetic coding. And my through line is, this is how I want to tell stories so that people can feel that connection to themselves, so that they can be a ripple effect of change.
that change, as you said, has to come from the inside out, not from the outside in. Because outside in, somebody told me, when an egg breaks from the outside, it kills life. When an egg breaks from the inside, it creates life. So you're with your joyful, energetic body and your love and compassion and your clarity, you're not only healing yourself, but healing others as well. So let's talk about the book. How did you come to write a book of fiction? What made you write this book?
Well, my whole life I've been a storyteller, and whether that be through dance and my body or through acting, through music, and I think when I could have told my story, I could have done a memoir or an autobiography, and I know people can get a lot of great information that way, but I think sometimes you can see somebody and their experiences and think that that is their experience only, and not see the universal themes that we all experience. And so I've had very unique experiences of leaving home very early, dancing with a Russian family and a British family, and competing and going through lots of abusive trauma and certain things that were very specific. But my experiences and my my grief or my loss or my abandonment, all these wounds and all of these feelings that I've experienced, they're very universal. So I thought, instead of telling my story, how can I tell a fiction story that allows people to see themselves in the character and feel more connected to the fact that, wow, I'm really relating to this person, where I can kind of escape into a world that I'm not associating with a celebrity. And I can just see myself as this character going through this journey. And that's Lexi. That's the main character of this book. And I took a lot of my personal experiences and wove them in and out. I also, had friends and coworkers that have shared things that we all can relate to, even though we've had different experiences. But I wanted to put it in a way that everybody could see themselves going on this hero's journey. And through that, so far, the response has really been amazing. And people have said that, like, wow, I feel like this book was written for me. I feel like I've gone through this. And so that's what my hope was through doing it through a fiction lens. And of course, I'm sharing, my experiences along the way while I'm promoting this book, because they are my experiences, just different circumstances.
I just don't want to give away the plot, but because of it, Lexi, who's the main character, wants to believe that the episode that this book starts with is a bizarre coincidence. Any other explanation would disrupt the normal, comfortable life she's worked so hard to build. Lexi, expert at denial, a pro at fitting in. But as more strange events unfold, Lexi can't deny the truth. Something is changing inside her. She feels other people's emotions, sometimes even glimpses their private memories. By embracing her new abilities, Lexi can help heal people, though not until she confronts the past she spent a lifetime burying. But when a vision reveals her husband is in danger, Lexi must decide, face her inner demons or lose the person she loves most. So that's the book I'm reading right now. And it's a great book. And I just want to also ask you, is this your first book?
It is. This is the first book I've ever written. And if you look, Ellen Goodlett is also on the cover, because I hired her initially to be a ghostwriter. That was her job. And while I was writing this, I recognized my superpower is I am a high concept person. I can see worlds, I can create characters, but my structure and my ability to actually write a novel it's not my skill set. And so as we were going through this, I just was like, we really did this together. And I wanted to put her on the cover. And she's a great writer. And we just really, it was a journey, and we co-created this. And so it was a very fun experience. And now that I've done this and the process, I understand how it works and the how behind it. Before I didn't. And so my whole reasoning for saying that is, we're never too old. We can always learn something new. And when I take something on that I'm curious about, it just helps me evolve my way of thinking and experiencing the world in new ways. Because if I just stuck to dancing, which is beautiful, I could be an expert at it. And I did that for many years. But to learn how other people work, and again, my strong suit is not structure, but I learned how to create structure in my life. And that was a really, I don't know, I felt very proud of myself for taking on something that wasn't necessarily my strong suit, but I used what was my strong suit to collaborate with someone.
So now that it sounds like an amazing collaboration with Ellen. What was the process? How did you go about the writing process, you and her?
Yeah, well, it was during the pandemic, and so we were on Zoom for most of it. We would have weekly meetings, and I'm a very visual person, and all of the modalities and experiences that I've gone through with um, different meditations or breath works or seeing the energetic field, I would write diagrams and send them to her and try to explain it to her. I wanted her to do Kinrgy classes so she could understand the journey and the transformative experience, because all of that is within the book. You know, part of what Lexi goes through in this book is her own healing journey, and she uses the elements earth, fire, water, and air as her tools in order to go through those lessons. And you know, using her voice for the first time and being able to stand up for herself with the air element. Water is like connecting to her emotions and the grief and the loss that, you know, she didn't want to face. But diving deep underneath the surface of the chaos, you know, she was able to bring all of that up and actually move through it. With fire, it was the healthy anger that had been suppressed, and being able to viscerally feel it within the body so that it can move through the body versus it being stuck in the body. And then earth, you know, that element was all about the familial system and families, and you know, tied to security and abandonment, and being able to address those things and owning and accepting the wounds of the past, but knowing that they don't have to be your story forever and you can transform it. And so those lessons within the book, you know, they're all throughout Kenergy. They were through my experiences. And so while I was sharing all of these, it was so important for Ellen to go through this Kenergy journey, to see the diagrams, to really experience it viscerally. Like I said before, everything in this book, I also wrote music for it. The encoded energy is in it. And so no matter how you're receiving it, if you're reading the book, listening to the book, listening to the music, taking a Kenergy class, it is encoded with healing. And so that needed to be translated and like infused into the book, no matter what.
It's fascinating that you use the elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth. In Eastern wisdom traditions, these are, of course, embodied in every cell of your body, has space, fire, water, and earth. And the healing practices are all about either increasing one element or decreasing or balancing these elements. So it makes total sense to me. Tell me now, what uh, kind of books or genres of books have you pursued in the past?
So I have definitely been an avid reader of self-discovery, transformation, identity, unraveling. In fact, one of my favorite books that I read at least once a year, if not twice a year, is Seven Spiritual Laws of
Oh,
Success. And it's just, I mean, I can read that over and over again because it's such a consistent practice of mine to be able to have that be a reminder. And it's so short, by the way. It's perfect. So easy to read and so impactful. So I want to thank you for writing that book. And
but you
um,
must also be an avid reader of fiction to write this, right?
yes, I am for sure. And you know, Big Fish was a really powerful book for me when I remember reading that back in high school, because you know, we all have different experiences. Our parents have different experiences than the children, and it's the reticular activating system of like how we see things and experience things. And you know, there's always different sides to every story and experience, but that book really meant so much to me because it was obviously heightened experiences that this, you know, father was telling stories about, you know, his life, and you never knew if you believed him because they were these wild stories, and he would you know, explain them in such crazy detail. But when you actually, that was his form of connecting and seeing the possibility of life, and the son, I think, in it was very frustrated because he never felt like he was there for him, but he did so much for all of the people in his life. And anyway, it was just, I just remember reading that, and I thought, wow, there's so much underneath that, and complexity of how we engage with our family and our friendships, but you can do that through fiction and through the lens of these heightened experiences. And that's why with this book, she's having these supernatural experiences, which I have definitely had, but I wanted to make it so visual and so stimulating that it felt like a world that you could really dive into, and you could see it without it being intimidating, and like seeing if it was right or wrong. It was just what it is, and you were able to accept it versus judge whether it was the truth or not.
We all read nonfiction, particularly when it comes to self-realization, self-discovery, self-knowledge. But ultimately, it's stories that change our lives. When I was a teenager, and before I went to medical school, on my 14th birthday, my father gave me three books. One was The Razor's Edge by Sid Mom, which was about existential crisis. The other book that he gave me was called Magnificent Obsession, which was about a neurosurgeon who had accidentally killed somebody in a road accident. And then he became obsessed with helping other people anonymously. The third book was a book called Lost Horizon. It was the first time the world was introduced to Shangri-La. There was a movie actually in the 40s in black and white about Shangri-La based on that. And just those three books made me want to go to medical school, made me go uh, get interested in the role of compassion and healing, ultimately made me interested in spirituality. So, facts don't move people, but stories move people. And when you combine facts with stories and give them emotional resonance, then you have a book like this, which is both exciting to read, sparks your imagination, but actually also gives you insight into your own self. So, congratulations on getting.
Thank you.
Um,
You couldn't have said that more perfectly. I'm gonna take that clip forever now.
okay. Well, are you writing any more books? Are you on a journey now? What's next?
Yeah, I am. I think so. This book was the activation of my spiritual journey. And then the delayering happened. And I like to call it the death hole pit of shit era, where you just need to sit in it and let it all unravel, all the things that were not aligned, and they start falling apart. So that's book two. And then book three is the creation of the intentional creation of what you can design your life to be, from the most authentic self. So I definitely already see book two and book three. If obviously this goes well and people like this story, I want to continue that. And then also, like I said before, I have I have a through line now. I've spent the last almost 20 years of my career dancing, singing, acting, doing things for hire, which is amazing. It has created such a platform for me to solidify myself as talent. But I think what I'm finally honing in on is, what is my through line? And I want to be a storyteller that tells stories of transformation and healing and self-discovery. And so no matter what I do, whether it's books or films or whatever it is, that will be my through line. And I feel very clear in that. And so I'm not sure what's next, but I think that's where the magic happens, is to sort of allow what's great. Because I will say, I'm a master manifester, and I've manifested a lot of things that I've thought was what I wanted or needed, and that was from a limited space. So I'm sort of creating the space to allow what's supposed to be from that place, and just try to be in alignment with myself as much as possible.
Well, my very special guest today has been Julianne Hough, and she's written this extraordinary book, Everything We Never Knew, with Ellen Goodlett. And it's what I would say an ideal way to teach people through both fact, insight, intuition, imagination, and emotional storytelling. So congratulations to you, Julian, and good luck. And I hope people will read this book. I'm still on page 28 or 29, but I'm captivated and I can't put it down. I think I'll finish it this weekend. And I hope that the book will inspire other budding authors who are still, in kind of a doubt as if they can do it. I think we all have the potential for telling a story because we are living our story anyway. So live it authentically, it'll help others. So thanks once again. And
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.